Josephine Torres, the Public Information Officer for Miami-Dade County Animal Services. Thanks for joining our live stream today. And I am joined by the amazing Dr. Serrano. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Josie. Yes, I am Dr. Serrano. I am the medical director at Miami-Dade Animal Services. I've been working at Miami-Dade Animal Services for the past 13 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So we've done a lot of amazing things there since I've been there. So we're looking forward to doing more.
Fantastic. And today we're going to talk about some amazing medical marvels that our clinic has completed or has done during 2022. But before we get into that, I wanted to talk a little bit more about your background. Why did you decide to become a vet? What drew you to it?
So I've always wanted to be a vet. I am one of those lucky people that has always known what I wanted to be. It was either that or a famous singer. So I'm very glad that vet was my thing. But I really love medicine and I love helping animals. And later in my career, I realized that what I love the most is being able to help not only the animals, but the people attached to those animals.
Right.
And shelter is, I believe, the best way to do that as well.
Yeah, so there are lots of different kinds of veterinary practice, right? So that's what drew you initially to working in the shelter. Have you worked in the shelter for your entire career?
No, actually, I have worked in multiple areas of veterinary medicine. I worked at the zoo.
Oh, okay.
I worked at emergency and I worked GP, like general practice.
Okay.
And shelter was definitely what captivated me the most. I've been here the most of my career.
Okay.
And I just love how many animals and how many people we can help by being a shelter vet.
Well, that's very interesting. Something else I wanted to talk with you about. You hear about it in the news that there's a shortage of vets nationally. How has that impacted the shelter?
Yeah, it really impacts all shelters in the U.S. and actually all practices in the U.S. There is a huge shortage of veterinarians. There's a limited amount of veterinary schools. And after the pandemic, I think that the demand just grew because a lot of people got pets, and it's becoming a huge problem. There's about over 3 million veterinarians that are not working full time, and there's about over 4 million positions available.
Oh, wow.
And so it is a challenge, and especially in shelters. It's been a difficult thing to be able to get vets working for us but it's not something that it's not our only problem.
Right.
Other places also have problems getting vets because there's just not enough graduating.
Okay.
So hopefully that will change.
Has there been a big push to open more schools, or how is it being addressed nationally? Do you know?
Yeah, there's a lot of push to try to get mid-level practitioners, as like the medical field has PAs, for example.
Yes.
So that's one idea that has been kind of like circulating a little bit. And I think that veterinary schools are trying to have bigger classes. There's more schools opening, but I think that we're a little bit late for that because
Right.
we are already suffering the shortage.
Right. Well, what would you tell someone who might be interested in joining the vet profession to become a veterinarian?
So it's an amazing field. It is extremely rewarding. You do have to study a lot to get there. But looking back, it is the most wonderful thing you can do because I think the best thing you can do is work doing something that it's almost not considered work. It's just something that you love doing and you're glad to do it for the rest of your life. So if you really have that passion in you, I always recommend people just follow your dream because it will make you happy in the long run. Studying maybe can be hard at like when you're feeling it, but looking back, it's always worth it. So I recommend everybody that has a dream to just follow it.
Great. Well, really appreciate that advice. I bet that there are people watching that have thought about becoming a vet, whether they're school-aged or maybe they're in college. Do you have any recommendations for what they should study, or who should they talk to if they really want to become a vet?
I mean, definitely talk to your advisor in school. They will be able to guide you the most to tell you what classes to take and what is the best and more efficient way for you to get there. It is a postgraduate degree, so you have to have an undergraduate degree first. And so sometimes it just may appear to be too long, but time flies. And so if you're learning fun things, it'll fly. So the farther you get, the more fun things you'll be learning. So the more you're going to enjoy it. So just do it.
Great. Well, that's some awesome advice. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the amazing medical marvels that happened at the shelter in 2022. We'd really like to take a time out to celebrate some of these fantastic achievements that have happened this year. So first, let's go to the video of Tyson. We'll just show that video and then we'll talk about it.
Haciendo reconocimiento ahí de su área. Mira, está contento.
What a great happy video. I love the ending of him happily frolicking in the backyard, right?
Yes.
It's nice to be able to see such a happy result. So Tyson came in to the shelter with a large tumor on his paw that had become necrotic. Is that correct?
Yeah, so he had a very large, gruesome tumor that you saw in the video. And the owners had been trying to get help anywhere they could, and they just couldn't afford the surgery. And they just couldn't, they just knocked on every door that they could. And so their last resort was to request for Tyson to not suffer and be put to sleep and, be humane and be kind to him and because he was suffering. So they brought him to the shelter, and our staff is amazing. We are always trying to do the best that we can for every single animal that we have. And that is what makes me the happiest to work with people that are all alike in that way. And so our clinic manager just walked by his kennel, and she noticed that he was a euthanasia request. And she came to me and asked me, like, hey, can we do something for him? And I said, absolutely, we can do something for him. So we examined him, and we called his owners to see, because a lot of times, this is a very sensitive moment, and it is, you have depleted your emotions when you you say goodbye to your animal and you don't know what's going to happen. So we called them to see if they wanted to kind of pursue. They were so happy.
Right, because they thought there was no other option, because they had knocked on so many other doors and been told no and made this decision that was very difficult for them. So I bet that they were elated.
They were so happy. So we went ahead and did the surgery, and we called him. You saw in the video, he was bawling of happiness when he picked them up.
Yeah.
And I mean, some of these, we don't have a way to do histopathology. So it's to know exactly what kind of tumor it is. And so we did tell the owners this may be something that would give him maybe a year or two more if it's something that is malignant.
Right.
But there are some tumors that can be curative when you remove the limb. And so, let's give him that 1 year, 2 years, or maybe 5 more years.
Right.
But so they were so happy. And these videos always, like, no matter how many years go by, it always kind of like make me a little teary-eyed because it just makes me so happy to see that bond with the dog and the family, and being able to help that bond and keep that bond. The goal of shelters is not to take animals in, is to keep them in their home and keep them with their families.
Yes.
And so I think that is the most wonderful thing that we can do. And so seeing these cases, and I like the first case that I like when I just started at the shelter, I still remember a lot of these animals' names and their families. And so there was one case, not to stray out of Tyson, but there was one case of a puppy that came in. He came in at night. It was hit by a car, and his leg was like kind of like hanging pretty much. He was really, really injured. And back then, the only option we had was euthanasia. But I was like, no, we're going to try this. And I mean, it was like, I was a baby vet. I was like, this is my very first like amputation by myself. And I was like, no, we're going to do this. I'm going to do this. It took me a long time. We did it. Her name, I named her Morgan, like pirate. And she ended up being adopted by a dolphin trainer. And
nice.
so she sent us this beautiful email after saying, like, you know, Morgan participated in this lure race and everybody was cheering her and just even talking about it. And this was like 12, 13 years ago. And I talk about it and I feel so happy about those things. And so those are like the happiest things that I experience working there, just seeing how happy families are to get that bond and that happiness with their animals. So.
Absolutely. So we do see a fair share of amputations coming through the clinic. Are there any like guidelines you can give for aftercare when it comes to amputations? Things that people should keep in mind about animals that have lost a limb? I mean, we saw that video. Tyson was booking it. I mean, he seemed to be living full.
And that was actually pretty much like a day after surgery. I'm sure, like when I saw him to remove the sutures, he was even more mobile, more happier. So dogs and cats do really well with on 3 legs. Luckily, they have 4, so they normally offset their weight. And so they do really good. Generally, the first 24 hours after surgery, sometimes it is a painful procedure. It is a pretty invasive procedure.
Oh, yeah.
So we always try to save the leg if we can.
Oh, yeah.
So that's like a last resort. Unfortunately, we do get a lot of animals that are severely injured. And so amputation is the way to save the animal's life. And they do amazing. They really don't know that they are missing anything. I wish we as humans had a little bit more of that dogs have, because a lot of times the families will tell me like, I just, you know, it's going to be too hard. I don't like, is it going to be, you know, too much for him? And I'm like, no, it's going to be maybe for the person, because we are, you know, we have like, oh, and what are other people going to think? And I'm not going to be able to, you know, I'm going to be limited. No, you are not. Like
the dogs aren't thinking about that.
No. And they
or the cats
just live on their life. They happy and like,
they live in the moment. I think we could all learn a lesson from that, right?
Such a good attitude to absorb, right?
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. So let's talk a little bit more about some of the other great stories that we have. And I appreciate you sharing some stories from the past as well. I love all the stories. So let's talk a little bit about Miley and her amazing recovery. That was a story we featured back in November for Give Miami Day about Miley, who had a collapsed lung after being hit by a car. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Miley is a cat that came in after getting hit by a car. And I was an emergency veterinarian for a few years before. And that is kind of like how we manage animals that have collapsed lungs. They need oxygen support. They need to be very calm. They need to be sedated. And at the shelter, we don't have an oxygen chamber, but we do have an incubator that we use for kittens. And so I thought, you know, let's actually create an oxygen chamber for her, because we know that with support, she's going to get better. So we really thought outside of the box, and we created an oxygen chamber with the incubator, and she was there for about 3 days. We kept assessing her, making sure that she was breathing okay. And she did amazing. She did well. We waited a little bit longer to make sure she was like, her lungs were safe to, like, so we're good to spay her. We spayed her. She, I believe, went to a home. And she was perfect. And that's something that if we wouldn't have been able to provide her with some oxygen support, something fairly simple.
Yeah.
I mean, in a vet clinic.
Yeah.
But something that she may have not survived if we wouldn't have been able to just give her that oxygen support that she just needed. And I mean, and we see cases like this every single day. Every single day we have animals that come in from various degrees of injuries. And we always try to think outside the box and see how we can make this happen. It's like today we had 3 cases this morning.
Oh, wow.
Like it's every day. So
You guys are busy.
Yes.
You're very busy.
I mean, multiple animals. Like last week we had a cat that was with chemical burns all over his
Oh, my
body.
goodness.
So we're treating him now. He's doing so much better.
Good.
So you'll probably see his story later on.
Yes.
We had a cat today that a community cat that was attacked by a dog and unfortunately had a hernia. And when we went in to fix it, we realized his intestines were also compromised. So we fixed that too. So he's recovering as we speak right now, hopefully, towards a great life.
Yeah.
And so we had a cat too that came in with his leg partially amputated, probably by a car or by an animal. And so the bone was sticking out. It was really, really bad. Amputated him yesterday. He's doing so happy today. So it's something that we do every day to just try to give all of these amazing animals the chance to just get the home that they need.
Yes.
So that's what it's all about. Trying to fix them and get them to that wonderful home that they all deserve.
Absolutely. Where they can receive the love. After they've received the care, then they receive the love. So you're talking about innovative, work at the clinic. I think that this next story is a really good example of that. We have Button. I think we have some images we're going to show. We have about 6 images of Button. So in the summer of 2022, Button came in with an injury to his bottom jaw. And our innovative vet team figured out that the best way for his jaw to heal was by what was the thought behind that?
Yeah, so a lot of times animals have, or some animals can get what we call degloving injuries. So degloving injury is when the skin just kind of like tears off of the surface.
I see.
And so what he had in his jaw was that the complete, like the lip had completely been torn out of the jaw.
Wow.
And so in order to provide
I see. Okay.
to provide more surface to be able for that skin to stick back, we had to just give it more support.
I see.
So I thought, let's put a button, and the button is going, because the buttons have like 4 holes.
Yes.
That it's going to have more surface. So let's put a button and see if we can get it to stick. And it was wonderful. It stuck. It healed.
Here we got some great video pictures of his recovery, Button's recovery.
He was eating. He did amazing. He also found a home.
Oh, great.
And we named him Buttons for that reason, obviously.
Right. I mean, why not? Was there something to do as well with like the pressure of the button? Like, did that like help provide like more stability as well? Like the actual, okay.
Yeah, so the amount of pressure that the button is able to provide uniformly, not like obviously not too much, because if you put too much pressure, then the circulation won't be able to allow that healing. So it's like the perfect amount of pressure, but a larger surface of pressure, so that all of that skin is able to heal back and stick to where it originally was.
That's very interesting.
Really well.
Yeah, that's very interesting. What a great use of a common everyday object to really improve the life of Buttons. That's so nice. So I've got a couple other questions for you. Those were most of our highlight of 2022 stories. But do you have like a medical accomplishment from last year that you're most proud of that you wanted to share?
So I think that is just the combination of things that we go through to help these animals. We've had animals that have swallowed objects and that got obstructed. We also do a lot of forensics at the shelter, so I'm the forensics veterinarian too. And so a lot of these cases, like neglected cases, just seeing them, get homes and bounce back and having so it's hard to pinpoint of any specific case because there's so many.
Yes.
Right. And I think it's the combination of everything that we do. We have a staff that just goes above and beyond to always do the best for the animals and get them, get them that home and get them healed and just so I think the biggest accomplishment is being able to work with a team that has so much compassion and that just goes above and beyond to save every single animal that we get in. And when we can't save them, we really, at least we tried. And that is a really good feeling that you go above and beyond for every single animal that we get.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. So we're going to pop up the donation link right now on the screen. Let's talk a little bit about how when people donate, what that can go towards in terms of some of the amazing medical marvels we've discussed today. So especially for, our shelter pets, but also occasionally when needed, some community pets, what do donations help us do?
So donations are amazing to try to keep us going. We do so many special surgeries for animals that come extremely injured. So all of the cases that we talked about today, those are just like small examples because every day we have animals that come in need. A lot of times we also have people that just are not able to afford the care. So a lot of times we're able to provide them food and just to keep the animals with their owners.
Right.
And so donating really helps animals get those surgeries, if they're obstructed, get amputations. We had a cat today that was attacked by a dog, and he had a jaw fracture. So we had to repair the jaw fracture. Sometimes if it's something that is very complex or beyond what we can do at the shelter, we'll try to send them to another clinic, to a specialty clinic.
Okay.
And so a lot of times that would be something that would be helpful to be able to afford if a dog or a cat needs a plate or something like that. That's something that we are not able to do at the shelter. But we still go above and beyond and try to do it for them. So every donation counts and it goes towards the animals.
Awesome. Well, that's good to know. And there's the link up on the screen if you're interested in donating. You can also, we have an Amazon wish list up there as well that people can take a look through so they can buy individual items that our shelter staff have selected.
That's also amazing because I think like when dogs and cats are in shelters, they really need a lot of mental stimulation to just it's just like us. They're very social. And so that Amazon wish list will help us get them toys and things to be entertained and, puzzles to be able to just keep occupied. Because when you're in a shelter, you're not in a home. And so you can't lay next to your owner. You can't go on walks that often. You can't, just cuddle with mom in the bed.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times providing that stimulation really, really makes them just very fit for adoption. And they're not just sitting there like,
bored.
Right.
Well, it's good for their mental health.
Absolutely.
So, physical health is very important, but so is the mental health as well of the pets. And that's definitely something we think about at the shelter when it comes to enrichment and our play groups. We have all kinds of initiatives that cover and try to help support that mental health, which is some of my favorite things about the shelter for sure.
Absolutely. However, adopting is the best thing that you can do.
Yes.
So if you can adopt a dog or a cat, you will make them the happiest and they will make you the happiest too.
Yes, it's great for everybody. I think it's a good deal for all parties concerned, definitely. So if you wouldn't mind popping up our website link, you can take a look to learn a little bit more about many of the topics we've discussed today. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch base about or let our...
Maybe community cats. We have not talked about community cats.
I had one for TNVR. So let's talk a little bit about TNVR and what is TNVR? It's
So TNVR stands for Trap, Neuter, Vaccinate, and Release.
Okay.
And so it is the most humane and efficient way of controlling feline community populations. So feline free roaming cats. These cats can sometimes be super friendly. Sometimes they have kind of like loose ownership of like they kind of like adopt people around. But we don't want them to be intact because first of all, we don't want them to be reproducing.
Right.
Also, when they are intact, they tend to fight more, like especially males. And that can promote certain diseases to be transmitted.
Oh, interesting.
So when they are spayed and neutered, they are just chill. They kind of sit back. They let you, and they enjoy life after.
Okay.
They're not worried about getting a girlfriend or a boyfriend.
Yeah.
And so we also vaccinate them and
Okay.
we deworm them at the time of spaying and neutering. And so it really also keeps that population healthy.
Great.
And most importantly, they were just not going to have more litters to just keep adding to those populations. So it's the best, most humane way of controlling populations.
Okay. If someone has a community cat population in their neighborhood, in their community, what should they do?
So there's a few things you can do. One of them is you can call 311. We have a line that will take those calls, and it is a lot of calls. So
We do have a lot of
we work with
cats.
a network of volunteers. They're called Caddy, our Caddy volunteers. They're amazing volunteers that are super amazing cat people. So they go out and they trap these cats in a very humane way. And then they bring them to the shelter. We spay and neuter, vaccinate, deworm, all of those good things. And then they will go back into those communities the following day after surgery generally.
So they get returned
Yes,
to where they were
they get
found. Okay,
returned
great.
to
So they're back in their environment that they expect to be in.
Yes.
Great.
And so it's just the best for everybody too, because the cats are happy, the people are happy.
Right.
It also keeps them healthy as well, because a lot of concerns of people is like, I don't want to have a sick cat. I don't know if there's something contagious that they can give people.
Right.
And so by us sterilizing them and deworming them and vaccinating them, you also keep those risks low.
Great.
We give them a rabies vaccine, and so it also is safe for people to have cats that are vetted and
Great.
and safe.
Yeah, it's better for everybody.
Right, exactly.
Better
Yeah.
for the community, better for the cats.
Exactly.
Great. Fantastic. Something we could talk a little bit about too would be during the springtime, there are a lot of kittens, right? That's the time for kittens, for the cats that we haven't gotten to
Yes.
with the TNVR initiative. Let's talk a little bit about what someone should do if they find some kittens. I think that there's some misconceptions around, these kittens are abandoned. If I don't immediately see a mother cat, that I should scoop them up immediately and bring them into the shelter or take them someplace. And that's not always right?
Right. You don't want to kidnap the kittens.
Right.
Because a lot of times mom is out looking for food.
Okay.
Producing milk is a really, really it's a difficult task for the body. And so they need a lot of food to be able to produce that milk. So when they are nurturing babies, they're going to want to be eating a lot. And if they don't have a regular source of food, she's going to go out there looking for food to be able to produce that milk for the baby. So a lot of times they will not be with the babies until they get food, right?
Right.
So a lot of times they'll leave them in a safe spot and then they'll, go get
out.
food and come back.
Okay.
So if you touch them a lot, you may put your smell on them and she might be like, "Oh, this is dangerous." The other thing is you touch them a lot, she may perceive that as a threat and she's going to try to relocate them.
Yeah.
A lot of times you'll see that there is a kitten that maybe is left and it's probably because the mom is going back and forth to get her litter in a safe place because, now humans have
She can't carry them all at once anyway.
Exactly. So she goes one at a time.
Yeah.
So that's another possibility. So we always recommend people just monitor the kittens.
Okay.
Obviously, if if it's raining and they're getting drowned, obviously that's a different thing, right?
Yes.
But just keep an eye on the mom. She should be coming back, to take care of them. And then, of course, if you don't see a mom, that is the time to intervene.
Within 24 hours, 48 hours, somewhere around there?
Yes,
okay.
exactly.
Okay.
And so then if you decide that absolutely, these kittens the mom is not coming back for whatever reason, then you can take them in. So a lot of times we have a program that we call the Milkman program that so we'll actually give you all of the training and the supplies for you to bottle feed these babies.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing experience. It's so beautiful. Kittens are so, I don't know if you like, if we don't have a video of them.
No, we don't, but they are so
just
sweet.
Their little ears when they're like suckling, and they're just so cute.
They're really cute. The Kitten Cuddlers program, too, is another program we run where people can volunteer to take care of the neonate kittens that we have. And I love those videos. I love those little kittens. They're so sweet.
So initially it may be a little bit time consuming because when they're very, very young, you have to feed them every 2 to 3 hours. But luckily kittens grow up so fast. So it is not something that you have to do for like a human actually takes longer time to grow up, right? So a kitten, within a few weeks, you're going to be feeding them less often until you are able to wean them. So in about a month, you're going to be able to have them eating pretty much a slurry, like a little soft food, but you're not going to be like having to bottle feed them all the time. And it's just such a rewarding experience to see them grow up and see them go through all their stages. And so I absolutely recommend everybody to at least take a litter of kittens once and bottle feed them. And it's just an amazing experience to have.
And that's definitely something that we need help with in the springtime. And don't worry, you'll see advertisements go out about it. We're pretty good about reaching out to folks when we really need that help. So, keep an eye out for that. Let's show our website one more time. So folks can, again, go to our website if you have any questions about anything we've talked about today. We have a lot of information on the website about, the clinic, about cats, about kittens, anything that you want information about, we have it on the website. Or you can check out our social media. We also have a lot of great information there.
And if you decide to help us with the babies, with the bottle babies, we will give you as much support as we can.
Yes.
And so it's again another win-win situation.
Yeah, it's a great community effort.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, Dr. Serrano, thank you so much for joining me today. I had such a great time.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, and tune in a couple of weeks. Thank you, everyone.